Ladies and gentlemen, ATDF everything in that shelf presentation. You're now rocking with TDF everything. Spoiled Rotten.
Spoiler alert.
Welcome and welcome back, everybody.
Hey.
It's me, Daniel,
Man, this is banned.
on Spoiled Rotten.
On that shelf.
Boom. Well, we're here to we're going to revisit season 4 of X-Men the Animated Series. We're almost done. I'm very happy that we're almost done with this. Because
And when you
we're
say-
so close to X-Men 97.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to clarify. I'm like, okay, that means we're done with the OG, like 92. And yeah, I'm right
That's
there with
exactly-
you, bud. I'm right there
That's
with
exactly it. I'm just going to, while we go through this, I'm going to make sure I'm on the list that I have, because I feel like last week we talked about the Juggernaut Returns, which is definitely part of season 4.
There's a little overlap.
And I think, there was just like, I look back and I'm like, I don't know if we watched the same order, because, some of the things that I'm like, that's not how it played out for me.
No, you know what I think was the issue is that, yes, I did watch a little bit of season 4 and there was overlap, but it's the way that apparently Google is doing these
IMDb,
versus
and I'm
Disney
assuming
Plus.
Google has it differently for sure.
Yeah.
So, I use Wikipedia because it has it in the order that they aired and and the
Okay.
order that's on Disney Plus. Because if you Google it, the first thing that shows up is the proper like production order or what they wanted it to release in, and IMDb is the same. But Disney Plus and Wikipedia are on the same page.
Yeah, okay, because according to Wikipedia, and you're right, this is the Juggernaut Returns is the first episode in this season. We were just like, what the hell is going on? Oh man, it's just a little silly.
It's
a little
whatever.
silly.
It doesn't really matter. We talked about it already, so now people know how we feel about it. It had an interesting thing about maybe it's not just that you don't have muscles that people don't like you.
Yep. People don't like you because you're a knob.
Sanctuary. I know there's Deal with the Devil. I did not pay attention really with the Omega Red one. I was just kind of like, yep, he looks like a cool villain, and we're done.
Yeah.
Did you have any thoughts on that one?
I mean, it was kind of great to be like, oh, like anytime there's like old Wolverine stories that they're pulling in, it's like, oh yeah, Wolverine used to fight him before the X-Men. I really like it from that perspective because it really does show you why Wolverine's so hardcore sticking a part of the X-Men, because it's like, yeah, everything you were a part of before, you were either used or it was a toxic kind of situation. The X-Men, something, even though I don't think they listened enough to Wolverine. I think we've said that before. It's like he's actually found a place that he would willingly defend. So anytime they go back, it's like, ooh, when he was a loner days or back whatever. I always love that because I love seeing the difference in contrast between that Wolverine and this Wolverine. So that's the one thing I did like about that episode. The Soviet era stuff, the commentary that they pulled in, obviously they couldn't do what they really wanted to talk about because it's a kids show. And when we get to 97, it's going to be a little bit better because they can actually use the word Nazi. But in 92 they couldn't. So it was like the weird censorship stuff that was there, even though people are like, oh, 97's woke. I'm like, you don't know what you're talking about here.
No, they don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Sanctuary is the Asteroid M thing.
Yes.
That's like the two-parter.
Yes.
And if memory serves me, because I watched it like almost 2 weeks ago at this point, that's the one where they go there and they're like, wow, like everyone is like, Magneto is king. But there's clearly someone there that's like, nah, I'm gonna kill this guy, and then he pins it on the X-Men. And I was just like, oh, I really want to beat this guy up. I hate him so much. He's like, look what they did to our Messiah. And I was just like, oh, I hate you so much.
Yeah. Fabian Cortez, I believe is that name. It was a good episode in the sense of it's like, okay, there's a lot of random things happening. There's a lot of action-filled episode here. The part two of it, anyways. But yeah, I hate that guy. That guy sucks.
Mm-hmm. It's hard. I don't feel like this season really had anything that stuck with me, if I'm being honest.
Mm-hmm.
It's just at least season 3 had the whole. It's got the Phoenix arcs,
Mm-hmm.
Phoenix and Dark Phoenix. I think that all this has is like the last 3 episodes, kind of.
Yeah, the Beyond Good and Evil stuff.
Yeah, that stuff. But there's a lot of Xavier either getting taken over or remembering his childhood in this season.
Yep.
Because I think that's the next one is Xavier Remembers. That's the Shadow King stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Where he's like, wait a minute, are you the Shadow King? And he's like, yeah, you got me. I am. It's true.
Well, I've been hoodwinked.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a silly episode. He gets a slight concussion, and then all of a sudden he's like open to manipulation. I'm like, oh, how powerful of a psychic is this guy?
Yeah, I mean, I think people understand this. We're on the 4th season of this. I'm just not compelled by the Professor X stuff.
No.
So once I'm like, this is gonna be one of his episodes, I'm just like, well,
yeah.
Let's hope there's some cool cameos, I guess.
Yeah. Anytime I see like, oh, it's an Xavier episode, I'm like, just send him back to the Savage Lands. Because at least when he was with Magneto, there was like interesting discussion and dialogue happening. But when it's just purely, oh, this is like an Xavier flashback episode, I'm like, oh no, this is gonna be rough. I don't like it.
It's not my favorite.
No.
I don't remember the Morph Homecoming episode, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, neither do I. A lot of these episodes, and I think you really, really hit the nail on the head. This season felt like a lot of throwaway episodes, and just okay, yeah, it kind of felt like this weird position where they're like, "Oh, right, we have to be a kid show again," especially with the Morlock Christmas episode and all that kind of stuff. There is a lot of the throwaway episodes, like trying to lighten things up and all that, but it feels really disconnected here. It's like, what's the direction?
And we know why it's disconnected. So I can't truly fault it on that other than be like, it's not even like I was loving the ride as it was happening. I was kind of just like, yeah, okay. And as I said, just kept me being like, we're almost there. We're almost out of the 92 era.
Mm-hmm. But I will say one thing.
Okay.
There are a few episodes in this where the animation got all of a sudden really, really good. And then all of a sudden got really, really bad. And I'm like, what is happening here? Because when I say
in one episode?
Yeah, in one episode, the animation, when I say really, really good, I'm like, okay, I don't mind watching this. It's like setting the bar low for what the animation is in this. Because like every still of the episodes is better than the actual movement and all that kind of stuff. But then there's one episode, and there's a few more in season 5 that it just gets egregiously bad. And I'm like, oh no, what is happening here? But there is one episode, and I can't remember which one, that it does get better.
Oh, okay. I was hoping you knew which one, because I was like, this seemed all the same to me.
Yeah, it don't get me wrong. It's one of those things where I'm like, oh, okay, this is like it's like a toxic relationship in the sense where it's like, oh, if you have one good day, you hold that above everything else, but forgive everything else. I'm like, no, I'm just saying, like, there was one episode where the animation felt kind of okay, and then everything else was just like, oh, what an inconsistent bummer.
I'm skipping over the Cyclops gets trapped in the old Western town. The Nightcrawler episode was I think it had flashes of being interesting to me. I like Wolverine being like, don't talk to me about religion. Like, I've actually lived long enough to see that that's bullshit. And really pushing Nightcrawler's faith, because he's part of a monastery and there's a monk there that's like, I'm gonna get you out of here. I'm gonna get people to kill you. I think they just landed on, no, you should still have religion. But I was interested for a bit where it was like, wow, are they gonna like make this guy drop the whole act? And I know they won't, obviously, but I was just like, wow, they've really written themselves into an interesting situation here. And then I think it mostly just ends with Wolverine being like, I guess religion's fine.
Yeah. And
Just do it the right way.
and here's the thing: I don't know how Wolverine got to that conclusion at the end of it, because it really does, like, that clergyman really does reconfirm everything that Wolverine suspects. It's just like, yeah, you could be under the religious guise, but still be a shitty person at the end of the day.
And more than that is that you're not actually accepted because you're following the rules of what
Correct.
these people say. Like, this person still sees you as an abomination and will kill you. Doesn't matter that you are legitimately his peer. It's not even like you're just someone in the parish and he's not taking pity on you or doing the Christian thing. You are actively his peer. And he's like, nope, I can't have this. I'm going to kill you. So I thought that part of it was interesting, but then they ultimately, as you said, it's a kid's show. They don't want to be too fucked up.
On the nose about it, because they did spread a little bit of that territory in the Friends of Humanity kind of episodes, in the sense where it's like the guy that's the leader that was like, oh yeah, you have a mutant son and all that kind of stuff. You're one of them. It's kind of got a little bit of that same energy, but they can't execute properly with what their vision is supposed to be, literally because it's a kid's show. And that does suck, because I'm just like, man, could you imagine if this was just adult animation and like the topics and the things like they could actually explore, like, you know, which I can't wait to talk about 97 with you, because I started watching some of those episodes. But it does make the gap between 92 and 97 even bigger, in my opinion.
It's a very big gap.
Yeah, it's not even close. But like, getting back to this, like the Nightcrawler thing, and this is what I suck. This is what I hate, is every time that we have this kind of Nightcrawler situation, it's Nightcrawler having to be exceptionally above average and you know, and everyone else could be like, yeah, you're just mid and all that, and you get accepted. But Nightcrawler is like the pinnacle example of what everyone's preaching, and he's doing all the things, and he's still not accepted. It really, really sucks to.
Yeah, this is why I thought, like, oh, this is interesting. It's showing that, like, it doesn't really matter what you do if you're seen as the other.
Exactly.
But, they didn't choose to go that route. Yeah, I felt like there was also some fun Wolverine comedy here, as he was like third wheeling with Rogue and Gambit.
It was funny.
That was some good stuff. And then he was like, he was really like, oh, I'm going demon hunting, and you're like, this guy's gonna. He actively was like, yeah, I'm gonna kill this thing. I was like, shouldn't you be a little bit more like curious about, like, I wonder what's actually happening, given I know what mutants are and what they can be. But no, he had to learn through experience, instead of just being like, I bet they're not really telling the whole truth about what Nightcrawler is.
Right. Yeah. It's a rough episode for sure. But it's very interesting what they bring up, but again, can't execute.
Is this, I mean, I know there's an episode later where they actively show you, like, maybe it isn't, maybe this isn't the one where he finds out who his mom is.
I don't think he does here.
He tells the story where he's like, even though I had blue skin, it was too blue for my mom, and they show you that it's Mystique, but I can't remember if he's aware of that, or because obviously there's the episode where the Sabretooth's son is like, I'm gonna get everyone in the same room and kill them. But I can't remember if he knows for a fact Mystique is his mom in that episode, or if that's where he learns. I think he knows. It's the Victor Creed, or not Victor Creed, but whatever that guy's name is, Creed Jr.'s the one that's like, wait, not only is Sabretooth my mom, or my dad, but Mystique is my mom. This sucks. No.
Yeah. That the Friends of Humanity guy. I don't know, but I think at this point in the series, as a whole, Nightcrawler is aware that Mystique is his mom and Rogue is his sister. But it's this weird thing where it's like, it doesn't really factor into the storytelling, because every time I see them together, it's just like, there's no real indication that it's like, oh, hey, bro, what's up? But I mean, granted, they were never raised together. They never had that kind of relationship, all that kind of stuff. And you do learn more about Rogue later on, and it's just like, okay, that makes sense why you don't have that relationship. But it is just weird that they don't acknowledge it as much as I feel they could from a storytelling standpoint.
He definitely doesn't know that Mystique is his mother in this.
Oh, not yet? Okay.
Yeah, I just read ahead. He definitely doesn't know. Yeah, so that's interesting. So yeah, they obviously are setting up like, hey, this brother and I mean, I think they're just saying Mystique was Rogue's adopted mother, but uh they are setting up, hey, look, it's the two siblings and they can be on the same side.
The next 2 episodes, the back-to-back, there's One Man's Worth. I think this one's interesting because it involves time traveling stuff, and they're trying to kill Professor X and all that kind of stuff.
But it's like Wolverine and Storm are in a relationship, and Wolverine is kind of like, well, if we're successful, then that means I lose Storm. Then not really into the. I like how that comes out, where someone's like, wait a minute, Wolverine doesn't want this to work. He's like, that's not true. I'm just sad about what's gonna. I thought it was a rare time where the show wasn't just doing a kid show thing. It was actively being like, no, this is complicated for him.
Yeah,
he wants to do the right thing. He's just like, but I know what the right thing means for me, and that's upsetting. So I'm not like gung ho about this.
Yeah, I love what Wolverine says here. Is like, hey, I feel how I feel, but my actions are consistent with what the goals are here, and that's just because it's like, yeah. And Bishop really rides him hard about that. It's like, oh, you're the one who's like, you're gonna sabotage everything. He's like, no, I want to fight for a better future. It just does suck that it means that the love of my life here and I aren't going to be together because of that if it goes through. And they're fully acknowledging it. I really love how complex Wolverine gets to be in this episode, in this 2-parter, and how obviously Storm, being amazing as she is like, okay, well, yeah, you know what, this is going to mean bad things for us, but if there's a future where the Sentinel crap doesn't happen, we owe it to everyone to be able to fight for that future, despite the fact that our personal sacrifice. And I'm like, this is why I love this 2 episodes, is because it really does show you the strength of Storm's character first and foremost, but also how Wolverine is not entirely selfish, but it's just like, yeah, he feels what he feels. That's it.
It's good stuff.
Yeah, it's really complex, and this is where it does become a bit more adult. And it is fun to have the book end of like, this is where they're at present day, and how like casual
flirting with each other. Yeah,
exactly. The casualness of Logan around Storm and all this kind of stuff. It's a really good episode.
One thing I didn't understand, maybe that's because I needed to look up quicker, but it seems like they start like the bookend, as in when they actually get to the end and they're showing you the second scene of them on the picnic. It feels like in another movie that would be them putting their clothes back on, because he says something like, hey, thanks for the romp, and she's like, oh, like someone might think you were saying something. I'm like, what other way could that be? Like, you guys look like you're finishing up having sex, and then he said thanks for the romp. I don't understand what other context this could be in.
Yeah, I think this is one of those jokes that tried to be a double entendre that just really didn't execute well.
Like, were they play fighting? Because
Doubt it.
It also didn't look like they just finished play. Like, they weren't like breathless or something like that, which again still could have seemed like sex, but it just was like, it seems like they had sex, and then the show was just like, why would you say that? It makes it seem like we had sex. I'm like, because it looks like you did, and then he said that.
Yeah, it didn't land well, and they're trying to be coy about it, but I'm like, no, this really is just one note. It's implying that you had sex.
Yeah, there's no other way to take what he said and how the scene is executed.
It's not like the both of them got out of a danger room and anything like that. And,
they were outside. And he's, I don't know, man. I just got really caught up on like, what else would there's no other like plausible deniability thing here.
Yeah, there's nothing. I'm just like, it's weird. It's weird because it's like, well, if they have that physical chemistry in this current day, then I guess they needed the trauma of a post-apocalyptic future to actually cement their relationship together as husband and wife, which is, sure, that makes sense to an adult, but to a kid, it's just like, what are you talking about? They just had sex.
Yeah, I guess I don't know, like, no, it is an alternate timeline, so I guess it is just like they could have always been destined to be married in that timeline. Right.
Yeah, because that alternate timeline, Xavier just didn't exist, and Storm and Wolverine were naturally just together or whatever. But it's. But I do like that this is already setting up a future where Magneto is the leader, and the X-Men are willfully following Magneto's lead.
Hmm.
I do like that a lot.
I do like Magneto as the leader, but
Mhm.
um, I don't know how the show wants me to feel about it, even in '97.
Yeah, in this, it's just like it's clear cut. Okay, we understand why Magneto would be the leader here. It's a full on war, and you want Magneto as a leader in a war, not Xavier as a leader, right? So but I like the condition of like, yeah, no, that's Magneto is genuinely looking for the peace of all mutants and all that kind of stuff, which is why Genosha exists and all this kind of stuff. He's just very coming from a place of where he comes from the World War II Nazi internment camps and all that kind of stuff. It's just like, yeah, we need to be separate. Like but Magneto is fighting for those um mutant rights and all that kind of stuff. He is genuinely compelled by the betterment of his own people,
Hmm.
as opposed to domination, which is kind of what the movies kind of lead us up to thinking. It's like, oh, he just wants to rule the world.
He's just mutant over everything else, as
Yeah,
opposed to uh, being against the bully like a Captain America.
correct. Correct. He's very much like, we are the next step in evolution. Why are we bothering with them? We're outgrowing them. We should recognize that. We should own it. And I'm like, yeah, you want a leader like that in a war, especially a post-apocalyptic one where everything is destroyed. I really do like him as a leader in this.
Next is the Moira McTaggart's son thing, where I was
Yeah,
definitely like, are they gonna say that it's Professor
Xavier's
X's?
kid.
No,
Yeah,
they show you the dad, and I was like, I really like. I knew they did, but I was kind of like, no, it'll be Professor X's, and I'm not saying this because I'm like, oh, like what a slut. I'm just mean like it's interesting that this kids show is like, hey, here are 3 men that she has had sex with, just so you know, and I was like,
yeah,
oh, like that's cool that there's no judgment on it. It just is what it is.
yeah,
Because I feel like usually in shows there would be some kind of comment about like, wait, who's the dad? Like, oh my goodness, come on, Moira.
hmm yeah. There's usually some sort of measuring contest or
Yeah,
anything
but it's
like that.
like, no, she was with Charles. This is the guy's dad, and she's with Banshee now, and it is what it is.
Yep, and they deal with it like adults.
So
They
I
just don't ever
appreciated
address it.
that. I
Oh,
thought like, oh,
100%.
that's really cool of them to not make a big deal out of that.
Hmm. Hmm. Even though I can be like, oh, Professor X, whenever he's around Moira, it kind of does seem a little bit shitty, like shittier than normal. He's like, and I think this is like the season 2 kind of thing, where it's like he arrives and then immediately goes like, show me to my room, I need rest. And I'm
Mhm.
like, not even hello, but like, who raised you? But yeah,
But yeah, so that's her son is going on a rampage,
yep.
and then Professor X saves him. I guess.
Yep.
Does the dad ultimately like the kid, or is he just like, oh my god, this mutant, get him away from me? I can't remember now.
I think it's a little bit of the get him away from me. He's a mutant.
Because
Kind of
I
thing.
know at one point he's kind of like saying to some guy like, hey, like I paid you to keep this away from me, and the guy's like, yeah, your
Yep.
son's pretty powerful. I don't know who you were gonna pay to stop this.
Yeah, unless you're gonna pay us to kill your son, like
Yeah.
why would you expect this to go your favor?
But
Um,
then I didn't remember how that ended. I was just kind of like, yeah, I don't know, like because the whole thing is him being like, I just want my dad to say hi. Like I want to find my dad. I know he needs me, and I love my dad. So I couldn't remember if he got that payoff or not.
I don't think he did. I think he just got the closure of like, okay, I want my dad, but my dad doesn't want me, and that's why he just goes back to the Muir Island with Moira, and he goes like, hey, it's that thing of like, okay, you got rejected here with your genuine family, but you found family here. It's kind of what all the X-Men are dealing with too, and I'm kind of glad that he's got that closure, I guess, from that, because it must be frustrating. Be like, yeah, that's my dad on TV. He won't say hi to me.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe and I can fully understand. It's like maybe if he knew I existed, he
Yeah,
would do something different.
totally.
And it's so like a lot of complex stuff in this for sure. But then he's like, yeah, at the end of the day, let's go to where I'm wanted as opposed to where I'm not. Even though he's alive. That's just the reality of it. complex stuff
Mm.
that they just graze over. But kid show, whatever.
Here was a fun episode, Family Ties. It's got
Yeah.
the High Evolutionary, and I'm like, it's so weird to see this version of High Evolutionary.
It
after
really is.
Guardians of the Galaxy 3. But I think it helped fill in a lot of gaps.
Yes.
I think I was just like, seeing that interpretation of, when I say that, when I think of the Guardians of the Galaxy 3 interpretation of him, it made me be like, whenever this version in this cartoon did something, I'm like, yeah, I know where that's coming from. I'm feeling, I know, and I'm not saying it needed that, but it helped me engage a little bit better. And obviously it does the Pietro and Wanda find out that Magneto is their dad thing.
Yeah.
And I like that Pietro's kind of just like, oh, fuck that. No, this guy sucks.
Yeah. Yeah. This is also kind of where they start to hint at Nightcrawler's mom and all that kind of stuff. There's a little bit of a thing here. But they don't really follow through with it, I think, until the next season, realistically. But yeah,
It's
is
the next episode.
Bloodline. Sorry.
This.
Right. Family Ties. We're talking about Family Ties. Yeah, like I do like the Quicksilver Scarlet Witch stuff here.
Yeah.
Kind of great. It really, really is.
It was cool to see them do stuff. And you get Beast and Wolverine that are kind of, because what? No, that's another episode. I was thinking, is this the one where like Wolverine is looking for something and Beast is like, at first it's kind of like, what's wrong with you? And then he's like, oh, this is probably important to you. Let me just help. I was like, oh, that's good for Beast to read the room.
Yeah. Yeah. Because he's usually just like so in his own head, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, the Magneto stuff here is really, really good. We're just seeing all these different dimensions of him and Quicksilver and all that kind of stuff.
They do the like Star Wars thing of like, hey, your dad killed your mom, and they're like, I mean, it seems like it was more, like you're positioning it like there was some like malintent there when he's just like, oh no, like my whole thing got your mom killed, but it's not like I was like, I'm gonna kill your mom.
Right.
Like, I love your mom so much.
Yeah. Which is again so complex.
Mm-hmm.
It's so complex. And it I just really wish they do have the ability to follow through, but it was the 90s. Surface level stuff is what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
The next episode is Bloodlines. This is where I jumped ahead a little bit.
So this is where he finds out.
Yeah.
I keep wanting to call her Mysterio. Mystique is his mom.
Yep.
But it's also that, I love that line where he's like, he sees Sabretooth Jr. He's like, wait, so you're my brother? He's like, don't call me that. I'm like, yeah, this guy cannot catch a break. Also, like, it's so weird that you didn't know who your parents were. Like, I get the sense he was like, I know my dad, but I wanted to push that away. Like, I just didn't want to accept it. But it's like, that just sucks for you to like not fully know your parents.
Oh, it must suck so much. Like it really, like, oh god, and for him to find out and just to be ashamed and all this kind of stuff, it sucks for him. He's a shitty person at the end of the day, but like that is a real emotion that is really, really shitty, and it helps understand him better. It doesn't help explain his behavior or justify it. It's just like,
No,
oh, I
definitely
understand.
doesn't justify,
Yeah, it's like, oh, I understand where you're coming from. There's a lot of self-hatred there, as with a lot of these kind of things.
So yeah, he I guess the FOH is like, look, we know who your mom is now. We really just don't want to be associated with you. And this is his big Hail Mary play to like get them back on his side, to capture everyone and kill them.
Yeah. What if I give up my family? Like, will I prove my allegiance? And it very much like the Nightcrawler thing like earlier in the season was like, no, well, you could do it because that's what we want, but no, you're not gonna be one of us.
Yeah.
No matter what.
And I think that's like, isn't Nightcrawler like is forced to reckon with it? It was like, Mystique is like, yeah, I gave you up for like acceptance. He's like, no, that's fine. Don't worry about it. I'm like,
yeah. And this is why I say like Nightcrawler is, it sucks because he's forced to be so exceptionally perfect And it's just like he's not able to have this emotion and all that kind of stuff. But at the same time, he's someone that's clearly happy in the monastery and all that kind of stuff. He's figured out his religion where he belongs. And so like I get why he would be like, yeah, it's okay, because he already found a family that will accept him. And he's like, yeah, you won't accept me, but these people already do. He has something to fall back on, right? Versus like
it's his faith.
Yeah, his faith. Versus his brother found something and got rejected and can't get back. Like you can understand where that's coming from very, very deeply. But they really make Nightcrawler to be like, hey, he has to be the saint. And I get what, yeah, associated with religion and all that, but he doesn't get to be human at all. Nightcrawler.
No. Well, I mean, also makes sense. He doesn't look human, and I know that he's just mutant, so technically he is, but he wouldn't be treated as such regardless. That's
right.
It's we'll talk about it in future seasons, but it's an interesting thing. When you actually when you lean into the actual differences of people and don't just look at it as, and I'm not saying it's not also, but if you remove it from just being an allegory about how queer people are treated, because there is an element of them being, you in a just world, you wouldn't be able to be like, oh, that person did this with their hair, they must be gay. Like you would just have, someone would have to come out to you for that to be something that is a fact to you instead of just assumption you make. Versus if you're black, you will just be treated, there's no coming out as black in that sense. That is that is a different complication. That's a different kind of rejection. So I think that it's an interesting to make sure is a part of X-Men as well. Is that yeah, some of these people we've already talked about, but yeah, some of these people have mutations where it's just like, well, yeah, they're gonna have to show you their power before you know they're a mutant.
Yep.
And then there's other people where you're like, well, right away I know you're not like me. And there's no amount of anything you can do to make them be like, oh, this is fine.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's though it's I love that you brought up queerness, and of course this is allegory for race too, but it's the complex idea of what passing means, and that very difficult concept for a lot of people to understand, where it's like, I have a black friend or I have a queer friend. I'm like, yeah, but that aligns with your values and it doesn't push the envelope or your worldview too much. But how accepting are you of their queerness versus, are you someone that's like, hey, looking at you makes me uncomfortable because it reminds me more of the disparity between us, versus like, hey, if we have someone that passes, meaning like visually accepting all that kind of stuff and behaviorally accepting, aligned with what we're doing, then we can celebrate the diversity in that. And I'm like, you're not celebrating diversity. You're just celebrating people that fall in line with your values. And it's just such complex stuff to unpack here. But I'm glad they do start touching on some of these things, especially in the 90s, where, it was more about good vibes only, in my opinion, during the 90s. Like that's really what the 90s was all about.
No, that's not true. But it's
fair.
A kid's show, so
yeah,
that needs to be taken into consideration.
Yeah,
I wouldn't say 90s was just about good vibes only.
Yeah, well, in my world, it was. It was heavily dismissed. It's like, oh, you can't do that. We're all about this, and I'm like, yeah, maybe not, but whatever, for sure. We can all have different lived experiences,
yeah,
for sure. The next one is Lotus and Steel.
So this was the Silver Samurai one.
Yes, sir.
Talking about,
and
you liked how they. I'm saying it's all relative, but you thought this was a good representation of Silver Samurai.
I did like it. I thought it was really, really cool. It's just, yeah, it's funny how I like Silver Samurai as a character, because I'm like, yeah, you look badass first and foremost. You look badass.
Did I say Silver Surfer? I meant Samurai. Yeah.
I can't remember, but we're just gonna assume you said Samurai.
Let's hope so.
But then how easily he gets tricked by the same thing again. It's like, wait, what? I'm like, you look cool, but you're clearly dumb. Oh man, it's like, what do they do? Just like they like He disables Wolverine, just disables the teleportation device, and then just Samurai loses. That's it. Because like that's his
I
only move is I'm gonna teleport behind you
was
and then
not
attack.
I was not a real fan of this episode, if I have to be honest. I was just kind of like, oh, and I wasn't like, oh, like what has Ben seen? I just was like, oh, I wish I liked it as much as Ben, like even on the level of how Silver Samurai was portrayed.
Yeah, I just like how cool he looked. That's really it.
Well, that's fair.
Like I
Uh,
will say, like I am acknowledging the fact that I'm lowering the bar at some point here, but when we talk about 97, it'll be like, okay, the comparison's like actually genuine. Like I just like the fact, oh, cool, Silver Samurai. Because I do like the fact that this show, more than other shows of the animated era, does pull from a whole catalog of characters and does feature their stories a little bit more. I think it makes it a little bit more interesting. Whether or not they do them justice is a different story, but it's just the idea of like, okay, we can see Captain Marvel. We can see,
mhm.
everyone that's not on the main roster of X-Men, and they lean into that kind of stuff. I think it's really, really cool to tell those stories. But whether, like, yet again, whether or not they do it justice is a different story. I think in this, I'm just like, cool, cool. We have something different. It's not just Scott being insecure about himself or like all that kind of stuff.
Uh,
Yeah.
and I felt like this should have been, and I don't even know what they're referencing because this episode just starts with him being like, "I gotta go," like I almost beat someone up and I almost beat Jubilee up,
Mhm.
Wolverine, and I was like, "Sorry, what? What did I miss?" And I was like, "Is this supposed to be connected to when Kevin from Moira McTaggart was like in his head and he's like, I'm losing my mind?" And I was like, "Is this supposed to be like side effects?" Because it feels like they from this point on keep hinting at like something that's fucking with Wolverine's head.
Mhm.
Like he keeps having the flashback of Sabretooth coming in and killing his uh, partner,
Mhm.
and he's decided he needs to go because he has anger issues. And I'm just like, is this connected to that thing? Because I remember in that episode he doesn't help at one point because he's like, oh no, Kevin's doing his Proteus thing. And then Rogue tries to call him out and he's like, hey, leave me alone. And I'm like, is this like because the show is serialized? Is this supposed to be carryover, or are we just starting a new thing here?
I honestly couldn't tell you at this point. I this sucks, but I treat them all as individual stories at this point, and like a lack of serialization because they just couldn't get it. Like I'm looking at the air dates on Wikipedia right now. I'm getting furious because it's like Family Ties was May 4th, 96. October Bloodline was October 26th, 96. Lotus and Steel is February 3rd, 1996. And then Weapon X and Lies, the next one is June 11th, 1995. What the hell? It's so weird. I don't get it. But
Sorry, so we're not watching it in the way
I
original.
don't know.
Oh,
This is why I think that
so it's not the original air date.
I
So this is the order they
maybe
wanted it to be in.
and this is well, I mean, you said the Wikipedia version's like the what they wanted it to be in, but I don't
No, I was
know.
saying I thought IMDb was what they wanted it to be in because it's completely different than what
Right.
Disney
Right.
Plus is.
Oh yeah, okay. I'm on Wikipedia again because
But
I misheard. I'm a dummy.
now
Uh
this looks. Oh, I'm on Wikipedia too, but clearly, yeah, it- clearly there's big jumps of like uh, between Lotus and the Steel and Weapon X Lies and Video is like February 3rd, 1996, then June 11th, 1995.
mhm, mhm.
Doesn't matter. This is the order we watched it in.
Yeah.
It's irrelevant. Um, yeah. So this is the episode I was thinking of when I talked about Beast helping Wolverine because he's still on his path of I can't be back at the mansion,
Mhm.
and he goes back to where he got his adamantium from, and Beast helps him, and they fight Sabretooth
Mhm.
and Silver Fox. I don't know. I really, yeah, I just don't get these mental breakdowns. Like it seems like it has to be connected to something, but it just kind of shows up out of nowhere.
Yeah,
Starting in the Silver Samurai episode.
right. And because like so to me this is where like and I'm definitely using the movies to kind of fill in the gaps where like the driving force of the movie was that Wolverine lost his memory and he's trying to get it back with the help of Professor Xavier. And when you kind of do that work when you're going back into your history and you're kind of doing that kind of stuff, like this kind of now makes sense. But in the show it doesn't seem like Professor Xavier is helping him out to that degree, or has already finished doing that kind of stuff, right?
When you meet him, he definitely feels like he's in control of his memories.
Exactly. And that's why it's weird to me, because it's like when they show you flashbacks to Japan, he's not a savage the way he gets depicted and described all the time. He clearly had a big part of control in his life, but they never really showed you, okay, when like was that really before the adamantium stuff where he had a memory loss and became a savage again? Like it was never really clear to me, but like I'm filling in a lot of the gaps from the movies and or making those assumptions, obviously, but it's just what I'm given here. There's no connection to everything else, and it really is just hard for me to follow along. But
well, they do have that cool moment where you see them before they've clearly gone through the process, and Sabretooth actually saves Wolverine, but
mhm.
it splits them off from the other two, so they kind of grow up resenting them. And I keep being like, yeah, so this will make sure that they're on the same team, but never gets there. It just kind of goes back to, yeah, but I still hate you.
Mhm.
And I'm like, all right, so no growth there. Got it. No room to sort this out.
Yeah,
Unpack it.
yeah. It's the description here is later they find out many of their memories were implanted and their true memories are destroyed with the lab. I'm like,
It does say that there. I don't remember that being the case, but
exactly.
full disclosure, I was not paying attention properly.
Yeah.
This season was like 21 episodes. I was really just like, I need to get through these.
Yep. I'm right there with you because there were so many in the like I'm just like, oh, this is a filler episode. This is a filler episode. This is a filler episode.
Yeah,
It was what it was.
have yourself a Morlock Christmas. It is definitely just a kid thing, but what I did like was that the Morlocks are like, do you remember that time you came down here and you beat up our leader and then took over as leader and then just decided to leave us alone? I was like, oh, now we're talking about some American shit here. Okay, I'm into this. I couldn't completely dismiss it because I was like, oh wow, they're really taking them to task for like going in there messing with their politics and then just leaving.
Yep. Yep.
I was like, now this is good. This is some good stuff.
Mm-hmm. It surprised me because I'm like, it's under the guise of an Christmas episode, and we all know how I feel about Christmas episodes and all that kind of stuff. So there was a lot more to dig in with this episode, and to me, I'm like, with what you said previously about Jubilee episodes being like kind of write-offs, I'm like, oh, they actually gave Jubilee a little bit more of a storyline to follow through here. But again, a kid's show. Jubilee's just got to make sure that everyone gets a Christmas gift. That's about it.
Yeah, she's pretty annoying in this episode, if I'm being honest. I only really cared about the Storm stuff.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
And Storm, obviously, at the end is like, Callisto, come here. And she's like, no, leave me alone. And she's like, no, I'll give you back the leader thing. I, for some reason, didn't think about this until now. But yeah, I guess it makes sense for you to still be the leader.
Yeah. But the funny thing is, in season 1, that's exactly what happened. Storm beat Callisto, gave her the leadership already, and passed it back. And just like, we're doing it again here. It's weird, but okay.
She gave it back in the first one? I don't think she did.
Yeah, she did. She did.
Oh,
she was like, I acknowledge I'm the leader of this, but in my place, because I'm not gonna be here, I'm giving it back to Callisto.
That's not the same as giving it back.
Well, okay, fair. Okay, right.
If you tell a group of people that are like, who's the leader, that's who we follow, and then you say, I'm still the leader, but you can listen to this person while I'm gone, then you're not giving it back.
Yeah, you're right about that. This is a full transfer back.
Yes, this is her being like, we are going through this ceremony. I am telling you, Callisto is your leader.
Yeah. Yep, that's fair. It's official. Yeah, it's a lot more to in this, and I really like the fact that it's pushing Wolverine to be like, hey, if your blood can help and all this kind of stuff to save Leech and all that, it works on a lot of the emotional aspects of
right,
Wolverine.
Because he's constantly like, fuck this garbage group of people.
Yeah,
and they're like, come on. And he's like, fine, I'll save their lives.
Yeah, it's like, fine, I'll give a little bit of my blood. I'm like, I don't understand why they made him so needlessly grouchy. But but a lot of
Again,
people will say that
he's
about
dealing
me.
with some he's dealing with some shit. So I didn't even know how they sorted it out. He just stops being upset. But they said he said himself, I almost beat up Jubilee. He was like, I got mad at someone else, and when she tried to stop me, I was willing to beat her up.
Yeah, and I was just like, I don't, because that was like after Jubilee wakes him up from a dream, right, where he's having a nightmare.
No, they were driving.
Oh,
This is in the Silver Samurai episode when he's explaining why he's leaving. And they show you the flashback. He's driving, someone cuts them off. He gets out to fight them, and when Jubilee tries to stop him, he's like standing over her, like, I'm gonna beat you up.
Oh,
and he
right,
says,
right,
like, I wasn't even fully like mad at myself for being like that. I think it's time for me to go.
At least some self-awareness on Wolverine's part there, but
I'm saying they did something interesting. I just don't know what sparked it, unless it was the more McTaggart. And now that I'm realizing, it seems like Disney Plus did reorder it so that you're watching it in the order they wanted it to be in.
Mm-hmm.
All I can say is, like, it must be that they just dropped that thread for a bit and then brought it back.
Yeah, for sure. The next episode here.
So this is so this was supposed to be the whole series finale, not just season. But then they got picked up for more.
Yeah, because you can tell, like, they really put their all into this 4-part thing of Beyond Good and Evil, and this is like the only highlight of this season to me. Is like, oh, cool, they actually have a story to tell. The story wasn't strong, but they had something mapped out.
Yeah, Cable's big thing against Apocalypse. And what's happening with Bishop? He's on the astral plane from what I can tell, but like, who is that?
Oh god, I was hoping you would know too. That little gremlin thing that's just kind of like,
I don't even really get. Again, I'm not saying it's not present in the show. I'm telling people right ahead of time. I was not paying attention. It was not clear to me how Bishop factored into the story. It was just like, when do they collide? When does his experience with this Joker mean that he's got what he needs to help out in this story? It never fully came together for me.
It never fully came together, except for the fact that we just constantly see Bishop just time traveling to try to correct the future, and that we're just like, okay, Apocalypse found a pocket dimension outside of time that all time lead to, or whatever, and all that kind of stuff. So it's like, okay, I get why Bishop would be here because of his natural story arc and all that kind of stuff. But that's me going above and beyond and leaning over backwards and being like, okay, show, I'm gonna let you do this right now.
Psylocke was in it. That was good.
Psylocke was in it, yes.
Not British.
I did not realize that Psylocke was a psychic. I never realized that.
Oh, right. That's the whole thing, right? Is that Apocalypse is collecting telepaths?
Yeah, telepaths or psychics or anything like that. And it's just like, oh, she's psychic? Okay, cool. It never really came across as one of her powers from all the Psylocke stuff. And granted, I'm not the biggest X-Men person, so you always have to take this with a grain of salt. But I'm like, Psylocke was psychic? Okay, that's kind of cool, I guess.
Yep.
I thought she was just like, doing a version of kinetic energy like Gambit was with her fists and all that. But apparently she's psychic.
I have no. I think much like Mr. Sinister and Omega Red and stuff, I like the design, and I don't have any other insights into the character other than I like that design.
Yeah.
So,
because she is cool, but it's cool to see like it's just basically the whole villain rogue squad that just like all united under Apocalypse and all that kind of stuff. That was pretty cool to see.
Yeah.
I like that.
I don't. For some reason, it's not saying what her powers are. It's just telling me where I can see her in video games and TV. Well, that's not helpful at all.
No.
Anyway, yeah. So that's it. Like the big attempt to kill Apocalypse, because they're like, yeah, every 100 years he's got to take a break. We can just go there and kill him. And I think they just keep. There is this weird thing where Wolverine's on Cable's ass because like he's constantly being like, I don't need you to tell me what to do. I've been here like so many times trying to kill him, and then he just keeps fucking up and setting off traps.
Mhm.
And they're like, "Oh, I guess he must have changed the place." I'm like, "What? What is happening? How is this a thing?" Shouldn't
I
Cable be
do.
the expert here? Why would they be able to tell him, "Oh yeah, he must have changed it"? And Cable's like, "Yeah, that makes sense." Your Cable's the one that's been doing it a bunch of times, not them.
Yeah. Yeah.
They should look at him like, "Do you even know what you're doing? Like, have you actually done this before?"
Yeah.
Not like, "Oh, this makes sense. Yes,
Mhm.
yeah, okay. Here's what happened, Cable."
There's a lot here that does not make sense in this. But because to me, I'm like, they never fully, at least I never, okay, I'm just gonna say I never fully understood why it was that they were trying to get psychics together, unless it was like, okay, psychics are the ones that could prevent the future, the next move that Apocalypse is gonna make. But no, it's apparently something like they need the psychics together to like destroy the time. Like it's the psychics that are holding together time and reality, as opposed to time and reality holding together time and I never fully got it, but the
Oh,
plan
I
is to
I
capture all the
thought it was
psychics.
just implied. I didn't get it at all.
Okay,
I'll be clear. I don't understand what the plan was.
Apocalypse does explain it a little bit, and I'm just like, wait, that doesn't. Okay, sure, I guess. I just think it was cool that we have this showdown and all this kind of stuff. But to me, I'm like, why are we capturing the
I
psychics? Because it
I
makes sense
liked
to me
the
why
kind
you
of
would take Xavier off the table.
I liked the ticking clock they created of like, hey, we got to get this done in the right window of time while
Right.
he's down. I appreciated that.
Mhm.
I liked how many characters were pulled into it.
Mhm.
As you said, it's a show that actually makes use of the actual plethora of characters that they can do.
Mhm.
So it was cool, but I was not really it's 50-50. I wasn't truly interested by it and I wasn't truly paying attention. So
Yeah.
it's both of those things.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting because I was like, oh, cool. We have a 4-parter kind of thing. We're doing a movie in this. And but a lot of it didn't make sense to me. And I'm like, wait, what's going on? What I do like here is Magneto, though. Magneto's role throughout this is really fundamentally really, really good. That he's just like, yeah, I'm gonna go along with Apocalypse's plan because he's doing this, but secretly he's got his own thing going on, and he's able to just kind of do his own thing. I really really like Magneto in this, but yeah, the rest of it is just like, wait, why are we going after the psychics? I don't understand here, but sure.
Yeah, I didn't understand the bishop stuff, and then when they're like, "Oh, we were collecting psychics," I'm like, "Oh yeah, I guess you were. I can see some of them."
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I will say one thing I noticed, and this is why I'm like, this show is bad in the sense where they captured Jean in like a wedding outfit, her wedding gown,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's like multiple shots of Jean just in her X-Men uniform, and then they switch back to the wedding thing like at the end of it again, and I'm like, what is
I don't
happening
remember
here?
that.
I just distinctly saw like they were very clear to animate her in her wedding dress. And then there's a few times where it's like, oh, yeah, that's her X-Men outfit. Someone dropped the ball there.
All right, like this is where they finally get married, right?
Yes.
Like, and they throw the bouquet and Rogue catches it. It's this group of episodes.
It's this
I don't
cluster.
know
Yeah.
why I thought they were married already. Like I know that there's the one where that Mister Sinister crashes and ruins, but I just was like, oh, I thought they got married already.
Yeah, no, that I did too.
They bring back the whole Wolverine being like, "You better not hurt her. I'll kill you with my one claw."
Yep. Yep, they did do that. They did do
I was
that,
like, "Oh,
which
that's
is
fun
weird.
that's back."
Yeah, they're retreading that territory again. I'm like, I thought he had moved on, but
I
sure.
I'm being flip. Like obviously, it's not 100% that he's like, I want her. It's more just the history we have. So you're marrying her. Don't fuck it up.
Yep. Yep. Which is just empty threats as far as I'm concerned. But whatever.
I didn't see it as empty. I saw it as like it could even be familial of like, don't just
True.
this is the person we both care about this person,
Mhm.
and I know where you live, so don't fuck this up.
Yeah, it did have that whole like big brother energy
Yeah,
of like, don't mess around with my sister, even though I as a big brother would fuck around with my sister all the time.
I mean, I would like to think by this point in the series, he sees himself more like a big brother and less of a
love
confused
interest. Yeah.
sibling. Yeah,
I genuinely hope that's the case, and that's where I got his whole like threat from. I'm like, okay, yeah, you care about her, but you know you're not going to be together, but you can still love and support her from afar and all that kind of stuff.
yeah,
and
you
know
still don't
that,
want her to be upset just
yeah,
because
exactly.
you're not with her.
Yeah, that's some selfish ass insult stuff.
Yeah.
But like, so him being that him doing that is like, yeah, okay, we get it. It's good, but it's just like it's kind of weird that they retread that territory again.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. But yeah, I genuinely thought at this point that they had been married for quite some time because I didn't they take like a honeymoon in like season 2?
Yeah.
What? But I mean, okay, to be fair, I think this is they say they actually do say they get married again, and I'm like, okay, maybe that's because the whole like Phoenix
Well,
saga
their wedding
thing
ruined it or got
Yeah.
ruined, so they're having a proper wedding, I think.
Yeah, and I'm like, okay, that makes sense to me. But for clarity, I do believe that they were married prior to this. They're just like, let's do another ceremony because the first one was shit. I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, I get that. I get that. Whatever.
They finally got the ceremony they wanted. Well,
But did they? Probably not.
I don't know why. What happened? I
Well, I
don't
mean,
remember.
Sister
yeah,
comes
so
in and fucks everything up, and is
Oh, he
like,
does?
yeah, they kidnapped the psychics. Jean was the first one that they kidnapped.
So did they never go back to that wedding and like finish it?
I hope they
Interesting.
don't. I hope they
No,
don't.
I thought they did in the episode. You're right, though. That's what starts this whole thing is Jean being captured.
Yep.
Well,
Yep.
as you can see, I did not truly pay attention to this season.
Neither did I, and I hope my rating is reflective of that. Because even the 4-parter, I'm like, this is where it gets good. I clearly didn't care that much about it. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Let's rate it then. I'm gonna give it a 6.5.
I'm going 5.5.
Perfect.
It really fell off the rails on this season. It really, really did.
I mean, sure. I just I think the more I watch 97, the more I'm like, I just need to be over with these episodes.
I agree with you. The moment
they don't work for me.
This is kind of the reason why I'm like, I don't want to start 97, just because I'm like, based on what I'm hearing about 97, it seems to have a lot of intention put behind it and the production and all that kind of stuff. Now, obviously, they were given very different things to succeed with, but at the end of the day, I'm like, I don't want to be exposed to something that is much better than the original and then have to review the original knowing that what it could have been. But here we are, ladies and gentlemen.
I don't know if it's what it could have been. It's what it was, and
True.
Now we're seeing something better. But
yes,
that's
spoilers.
Yep. Yeah. Big spoilers if you haven't been listening to me for the last like 4 times we've been doing these episodes. I think that X-Men 97 is better.
Yeah, I am right there with you because, man, I don't what when we do season 5, rough.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to it.
Neither am
so
I.
People know. No, I mean I haven't watched any of season 5. I'm not looking forward to it. I know you've watched it.
I've watched it all, yeah, because I wanted to make sure that continuity is there, even though it clearly didn't matter based on this season. It's like, oh, what continuity are you talking about, Ben? It's all over the place. Oh yeah, but
well, here we
go.
It
is what it is.
Let's sign off, and we'll be back. The next time we're back, we'll be talking about season 5. So If you didn't appreciate the lack of enthusiasm, I don't know if it's going to get better.
Yeah.
But
But
definitely
we
tune
can
in for our X-Men 97 one.
absolutely, because we can guarantee you that discussion's gonna be much. Well, I can guarantee you that I paid much more attention during 97 than during 92.
All right. Well, thank you very much, everybody. We're part of the That Shelf Podcast Network with other great shows like Bad Gay Movies, Countries in Plot, Springfield, Googleplex. So please go to thatshelf.com. You'll find those shows, our show, and more shows. You can also go to, you can go to our site, which is tdfeverything.com/spoiledrotten, and you'll find all of the older episodes there that you don't find on thatshelf.com. And you can also subscribe, follow, share with your friends, review, all that good stuff on any podcast platform of your choice, as well as contact us on social media. We are at TDF Spoiled on Twitter, Threads, and Instagram, and our email is spoiledpodcast@gmail.com. So get in touch. We'd love to hear from you. Bye-bye.
Cheers.
This has been a TDF Everything production, brah.